Hello? Hi, Pat. Sure, as we discussed earlier. Because it's based on our liberty, and therefore it's directly based on the Constitution. Now, if you look at England, there's no written constitution. There's been no attempt to secure the specific rights that we wrested away originally from the English government and have enshrined in our constitution. The central is the right of private property, although in the Constitution is also specified liberty rights specifically, which include the right to enter into contracts, and these together give a strong legal basis for business development and job creation, which has lifted us to a high quality of life and created that middle class, which is, after all, the pride of our system of government. And I would advance what I call the Take America Forward Act, which would stop the growth in the federal deficit by transitioning power and resources back to the federal states. Mitt Romney and some other Republican candidates have pushed for eliminating federal departments and agencies, and right now Romney is advancing a plan to promote local control and innovation. The important issue for me is this the kind of permanent reversal of federal control that is going to establish principles to shrink the federal role over the long term. Now, of course, the people of Minnesota who currently depend on the federal governments would then have to get involved at the state level to address the same kind of issues. So, for instance, instead of waiting for the Department of Education to tell us what to do, we would get involved directly, spend that money, and build our own educational process. And this would be true with a lot of different areas. They'll do a lot better also if they promote private enterprise in Minnesota than government solutions, and those private enterprises will have to be based on real work and productivity if we want to be competitive globally, because that is a growing challenge. And the programs need to be designed to build families, not to destroy or prevent families, as currently Democrats are doing. I've already addressed how I would change the role of the federal government by transitioning power and resources back to the state of Minnesota, and the way the state would take on the role, including the private sector, to address problems like education, health, housing, civil rights, transportation, energy, and the like. But what's really at stake in this election are two things: the role of Congress and the needed national leadership. And we have a so-called Budget Control Act, which is not a budget, but which purports to cut defense $500 billion over 10 years. Defense is a central purpose of the central government. These other programs which I've discussed, which Romney will transition, are not a central purpose of the federal government, but might be considered under the General Welfare Clause of the federal Constitution. But that is shared with the states, and that is a central purpose under the police or policy powers of the states. The states can do the best job in these areas, especially with the kind of enhanced public participation which is possible in the age of higher education and the internet. But what you have now is the people who can't get it done at the local level going up to Washington and actually challenging the whole social or constitutional order, because they're pitting these local issues against the national responsibilities of the government. And that is also true when somebody like Hillary Clinton, while spreading chaos throughout the world, has her ultimate goal to lift women over men in every country. Now, this is a domestic issue which she's seeking to accomplish through American military and diplomatic leadership in the world, which already has a full plate. So this is overstepping the appropriate role of the government and the state government, and mixing up the constitutional order so it can't function. And this is unacceptable and dangerous. So those are my reasons for seeking to restore the proper role of the various parts of our government. And I think it's very important that we continue to be involved at the federal level. Even though some of the people don't think that, I feel that it's more important to address the problems facing this country than even these two constitutional amendments, which I think the parties tied up with. So I want to thank people like Jesse Ventura that they've gone out and shown that we need people outside the two, you could say, syndicates of the Democrats and the Republicans. They're not going to solve our problems. It's going to go back and forth. 41%, I believe, nationally identified themselves as independents, which is more than the Democrats, more than the Republicans. And I think it's time to send somebody to Washington that is just an average guy, but who works hard, who listens, and who has the experience and ability to get things done by talking with leaders and holding them accountable and putting forward my own ideas as they help. And again, I've been a journalist and a political person at the University of Minnesota probably over 30 years. So I bring that. I do, because I think the Independence Party, it should be a big tent party and should be broad enough. After all, it's called independence, right? It should be able to take these ideas, which are all passionately important to us all, and let democracy work and get in there both at the federal and state level with those other parties and show America that it's Americans and it's not just parties that make this country great. Thank you very much, and thank you for your work. Thank you. Bye-bye.